Our devotional series in the Gospel of Luke continues. We're looking at Jesus' journey to the cross. And last time I noted that very early in the Gospel of Luke that the Gospel writer notes that when the days drew near for him to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And we see Jesus resolve to go to the cross, to come and bring spiritual healing through the means necessary, even though they were quite painful. And he, in chapter 19, enters the city of Jerusalem to cheers from the crowd, but also tears from his own eyes as he thinks about what's about to come for himself and for the city. He begins the most important week of his earthly ministry with a confrontation at the temple. Again, he wants to bring healing, and often attending to the brokenness, to the wounds of this world, of the people of God, means cleaning that wound and clearing out the infection. Keep that in mind as I read from Luke chapter 19, beginning in verse 45. And he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold, saying to them, "It is written, my house shall be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of robbers." And he was teaching daily in the temple. The chief priests and the scribes and the principal men of the people were seeking to destroy him, but they did not find anything they could do, for all the people were hanging on his words. There's an infection in the religious institution of Jesus' day. The worship of God had become intertwined with profit. How was that? Well, the people in Jerusalem saw an opportunity to make money related to the temple. The temple was a place of worship, not just for the people of Jerusalem, but for all the people of Judaism. And they would come from the entire Roman province, from the surrounding region of the world, to go there and make sacrifices, to make atonement for sin. Sometimes grain was brought, but often there were animal sacrifices: cattle, sheep, goats, birds. And pilgrims, when they came, typically wouldn't travel with those animals. They would buy them after their journey at the temple. And just like going to Busch Stadium and trying to buy a beer and a hot dog, or going to Merrimack Cabins and the concession stand there, you want to buy a hamburger, and the prices are outrageous. But what are you going to do? This is where you are. This is the only choice you have. You pay the cost. People in Jerusalem were taking advantage of the pilgrims and their need. And that profit, that desire for profit, had become intertwined with the worship of God. So how do you be a part of clearing out that problem, that infection? How do you help bring healing to that circumstance? How does Jesus do it? Well, he starts by cleansing the wound. He drives out the source of infection and disease. He cuts out the cancer. Verse 45, and he entered the temple and began to drive out those who sold. He drives out the merchants. The Gospel of John says he fashioned a whip to use to drive them out. That's not very polite. Doesn't seem to match with the picture we normally have of Jesus, but perhaps this dramatic display was necessary. When people use spirituality to line their pockets, to build their empires, it should be addressed forcefully, humbly, firmly, lovingly, but you take it head on. When I was a child, I had the most unpleasant experience of having a wound cleansed. My maternal grandfather had come for a visit, but he was heading home now, and we were all going in for our goodbye hugs and kisses. Now, the thing about my grandfather was that he was a field engineer. He always needed to write things down, and he always kept in his breast pocket very, very sharp pencils. Well, I went in for a hug, and my face pressed up against that breast pocket, and a pencil point broke off in my cheek. It was painful. It was uncomfortable, but I have to tell you, having that piece of lead in my face was nowhere near as painful as the pain of my mother using a needle and a pair of tweezers to get the lead out. As she was trying to get it out, I howled in pain. I was only 8 or 9 years old. I didn't understand the need to clean the wound, but the only way to healing was through the pain. Now, as we engage our broken world, even the broken institutions of our faith communities, we want to see healing, but we need cleansing. We need to address the foreign objects and the things that are causing infection. And that means engaging with the pain. The only way to healing is through the pain. So I exhort you all, whatever circumstances you're in your family life, in your church, engage with the pain necessary to get to healing. Blessings on you all.